A. Tetcherine the Pirate King, lord of all the scrawny, striving, scuttling crabs, called pirate. B. Stop. Stop speaking. I can complete the entry. It's unneeded. Your services are such an advanced level of literacy that A. But your proficiency with the words, I must confess, I don't mean to be rude, but they may be lacking. B. We write to Tetcherine, himself a pirate. He is similarly situated to myself. The word and the don't say it. Asclepius had pursed his lips to speak and pointed to the low cobweb ceiling, an imminent interjection stymied. B. Tetcherine will understand if a subordinate pirate does not have complete command of the written word. A. I understand, even if I do not quite. I can be a small stickler for the veracities and the verisimilitudes of language, capricious and tenacious about the capacity and mendacity of B. Do remember that I am the one of those skittering crabs you mention. I do not reside on a dry rock for living, whereupon writing may be a useful skill. Aha. Yes, I will remember this. Remember this I shall. Bartholomew the Black, boucanier of the blade. You must remember the full shadow of this rock that is the empire where I reside. If it is true now that we parade as cocks with all our plumage ruffled and rippling. B. Great Habsburg lord, please. I mean nothing but a fond adieu. I will be able to complete the entry for Tetcherine. A. Very well, Bartholomew. I am ever at your service, whenever you may need me. The day ages, the sun is climbing in the sky, and I will be missed at the office of the governor. The tall and regal man rose unperturbed by any slight the pirate meant to give or retract. He took the steps up to the level of the sun, walking as if he were the victor. Bart turned and tapped the bar top again, and his rum was filled the last time. He drained the glass in exasperation. K. I did not believe you would even last that long. B. I do not know what could have made the man this way, what great chasms he has surmounted, but there is a madness beneath. K. The energy imbibed within the Spanish, all of their kind, it is inexhaustible. Asclepius, he is a special breed, but only by degrees. The men fell silent, and Bart was able to grab the paper upon the rustic table, and he finished scratching upon it. The Ephra boarded. No specie. The Viciosa came upon us, fled and returned. Boarded such Habsburg boat, Knight of Europe upon board. Heavy losses afforded a victory. No specie found on Vice. Bart finished payment, and he bade farewell to the barkeep. Sweeping up the scratched upon paper into the folds of his shirt, he departed the dark wine sink and ascended the rickety stairs. Once in the sunlight again, Bart squinted and stepped forward as he began to move to his next destination. The day came into focus, and color came back around him, the bricks and wooden window frames contrasting with the black iron bars used as accenture on these forms, the heat beating upon the exterior, cracking, drying walls, turning to dust in this day, the hours disintegrating to memory. Bart studied these walls as he was struggling to remember the direction he had to walk, and he failed to watch the street around him. At a final moment, Bart saw a horse bearing down upon him, nostrils flaring, pulling a two-wheeled volante. The beast's brown hide glistened, its saddle cords and wooden tackle furiously clanking. Then an officer swiped past the pirate, blurred in his speed. Bart stepped forward after his near miss and espied the rest of the roadway covered in brown-red bricks, cooked mud squares from elsewhere in this island. The few trees growing through the pavement competed for sun with apartment walls. Windows into elevated floors showed cleaner and more finely apportioned than any of the hovels that Bart had made in his own accommodations outside of Havana. A woman stood in the entryway of a door, a Negro woman old enough to be Bart's mother, soul of the island, her hair white as snow pulled back in a tie. There a sentry stood on the other corner, holding again a bayoneted rifle. Again the slender blade shined and glinted in the piercing sun. The heat of the city was oppressive, as the sun struck and dried and cracked the rough-cut poles and casings and timber-holding walls, straight and framing doorways, closed dark portals to enshadowed interiors. Bart found an alcove to stop and watch. He was able to look up at the red-tiled roofs. There the quay was found beyond this line of building, and the great tall masts of these warships of the Spanish rose above these roof lines. There the sister of the Viciosa, it was the Valiente, alongside the Sangre Sangrada Viscosa, the Colmillo, the Cula Afectada. Bart recognized these top spars and crow and some furled sailcloth. Seeing this and nothing more, These details were enough to place the name to every accursed ship at their berths. Bart made it through the developing crowd around the Habana city market. There was the cathedral market, and the market of the quay, and the wares spread upon the stones of the alley that drew a line between the two. Many black faces watched and searched, those who fought to buy what was wanted, and those who sold. There was a white-shirt cazadore, slowly paced through the crowd, a pistol held at his hip, a solitary pirate hunter holding court in this brick and stone and shorn timber forest. Bart pushed through such mishigos, such mixed presence of human touch, so much that Bart the Corsair felt anxious as he was unused to such smells and accosting sights present here, where this mercantilism weighed upon him. He never knew such claustrophobic climes without first knowing the men who populated the close space around him. Normally such flesh were his crewmates, in between the splintered rails of his own ship. Bart hardly felt such anxious stab upon his temple, even at sea where there was need for an excursion into the tight-spaced triangle hold at the base of the boat's keel. Ian tasked to find leaks and streaming water splashed in black confining space, pressed by planks of damp wood on all sides to the lowest level of such a boat. Such a squirming, crawling, darkened passage was not a pulsing, vibrating, screaming market, amidst a thousand eyes warning of his presence. Bartholomew the Boucanier, surviving sword of the poinsettia, found his breath getting faster, shallower, his heartbeat thrumming against his ribs, and he wanted to get away from this market. Bart continued and escaped such a throng, his pistol strapped upon his skin within his shirt open to the grime and black air, the sun shining against him, burning against the ever-present brick, baking the metal grates and wood panels and walls of apothecary and solicitor and seamstress shop. Bart found a spindly tall ceiba, reaching in crook and thin and flimsy branch to overtop these apartments at a steep cost to its dignity. The tree was thin, scraggly, zigzag-lined up towards the infinite, the canopy sparse, and its own leaves boiling, as the light from the sky reflected from roof tile and pierced his green-veined skin. Bart took from his breeches pocket a cigar of tobacco, bit into the thing and lit it, waiting for the seed of fire to propagate itself. A flint and metal box was the means that he accomplished such, a luxury that he afforded while his feet were pacing above dirt, intermediated by these abominable leather boots. The cigar lit, the seed of orange coal flared, and at its end the smoke-colored blue curled around his head, and even such the phantasm presence quickly faded to nothing, dissipating into the surrounding air. The heat of the day was never lessened, but it fell from Bart's senses as tobacco burned and produced its effect upon the synapses and organs of the man. Bartholomew the pirate blade. Bart could not help but search for someone in the movement of the city, a ghost knight from his past. Bartholomew had seen this incarnate ghoul on previous days, as he had been haunting this sweltering city. But today the form of dust and blood was not in the square, fearsome in its absence, and the present day as a veil over all movement of the past. Bart moved forward again into the light. He walked through and beyond various cobbled road intersections of the city, away from the center of commerce where so many of the streets were calmly populated by the plaster faces of the urban estates, some with open doors, with food being brought inside, or with refuse being cleaned out and thrown into the street, and a great interior patio, again and again often presented to the viewer, a veranda with pools and palms and stories of columns towering over the ground. Bart burned through all the material of his cigar, leaving its remnants in blue smoke and white-gray ash floating to ground, and continued to walk until he found the area of town that boasted smaller properties, houses that were closed and boarded, residence apartments in disrepair, and lacking the grand vista to luxury and splendor inside. The 5th, the 6th, now the 7th house on this very block. This was the number. Bart walked to the worn bronze lionhead. Holding iron ring and ball, he knocked, waited, and was about to knock once more when a servant man came. The man motioned to Bart, and too quickly escaped inside from the heat. This source of salvation was a thin, spindly Spanish man who had opened the exterior, and now the hallway doors. He was white in skin, with trim pointed beard, directly styled from Alcala de Hernanes. The man's dress was unadorned, unlined, and clean, a perfectly white shirt with black slacks, a man living his life with stones under his feet. The entryway was unlighted and black in contrast to the blindingly bright day outside, much cooler than the street that Bart had just been walking through. The double entry door closed behind him, and the shadow took hold around him. It would forever be a strange feeling to be within stone walls, not to have wooden planks and beams threatening his brow if he be required to forfeit the infinite sky, but he must make do for the time being. Bart's eyes adjusted, a darker place than the decking of a galleon, where the great multitude of stars unimagined granted light to the corsair's eyes, starlight which was sufficient to steep drunk and sleeping sailors on the deck in such light, such bright pinpricks lightning to a searing brilliance, if an unroofed sailor only grants his eyes the opportunity to see and to appreciate the night sky. Bart could see now the entry hall had an atrium, the kitchens at the end of the hall emitting the slight smell of cold smoke. Even the smell of yeast and cornflour found its way reaching through the dark. B. Sir, I am named Bartholomew. J. I am Jesus Maria de la Rocha. B. De la Rocha and Castaneda. I know of you. J. I own more names than one, yes. You are welcome enough, Bartholomew the Traveller. What may I tell the master of house as your inquiry? B. Have I come to the wrong house? J. That is your decision. Any aspect may be your own decision. A pirate surely finds him that all the world be malleable, Bartholomew of the Boucanier. B. I have all the time in the world for philosophy when I am aboard my own boat. Here in Habana I fear I am hunted, and I must move with more electricity. J. I will take you to the master then. Follow me and do not lose sight of me. The entryway was unlighted and black in contrast to the blindingly bright day outside. The interior much cooler than the street that Bart had just been walking through. The double entry closed behind him, and the shadow took hold around him. It would forever be a strange feeling to be within stone walls, not to have wooden planks and beams threatening his brow if he be required to forfeit the infinite sky. But he must make do for the time being. Bart's eyes began to adjust. It was a darker place than the decking of galleon at night, where a great multitude of stars unimagined granted light to the corsair's eyes, starlight which was sufficient to step around drunk and sleeping sailors on the deck, such bright pinpricks lightning to a searing brilliant white, if an unroofed sailor only grants his eyes the opportunity to see and to appreciate the night sky. Bart could see now the entry hall had an atrium, the kitchens at the end of the hall emitting the slight smell of cold smoke. Even the smell of yeast and cornflour found its way reaching through the dark. B. Sir, I am named Bartholomew. J. I am Jesus Maria de la Rocha. B. It is de la Rocha and Castaneda. J. I own more names than one, yes. You are welcome enough, Bartholomew the Traveller. What may I tell the master of house as your inquiry? B. Must I have an inquiry? Have I come to the wrong house? J. That is your decision. Any aspect may be your own decision. A pirate surely finds all the world be malleable, Bartholomew the Boucanier. B. I have all the time in the world for philosophy when I am aboard my own boat. Here in Habana I fear I am hunted, and I must move with more electricity. J. I will take you to the master then. Follow me and do not lose sight of me. Behind De La Rocha, there the atrium contained a potted garden, small herbs and fronds and vines trailing down the 2 stories height above this ground floor. Bart saw searching eyes peering, young faces in the elevated shadows, waiting and watching for the pirate to pass through. At the terminus of this middle height there rested a stained and clouded window pane angled open to the elements above. Bart followed the servant De La Rocha farther down grated halls and passages, tiled floors and lacquered wood beams, so that it would accept the moisture of rainy days when they most mercifully came. The height of the walls in even this one room were double that of a normal ship's cabin. The atrium's ascending space an impossibly tall height in crafts upon the open sea, immediately noticed by the pirate. The tall crooks and carven balusters of such an old house boasted cobwebs and dust floating in the still air, far above the reach of any earthbound person. Bart was motioned by this regal man De La Rocha to the back and to the kitchen. The room silent and cold now that the morning's baking was completed.